Today in the News Digest. From Ryazan to Tuapse, Ukraine destroyed 240 Russian defense and energy targets in just 48 days. The best way to resolve the territorial issue is a face-to-face meeting with Putin. Zelenskyy reveals details. The Kremlin is preparing for the war in Europe. Russia enrolls agents for sabotage operations. Units of the Ukrainian Armed Forces Unmanned Systems Forces have struck hundreds of critical military and energy facilities deep inside Russia and in temporarily occupied territories since the beginning of 2026, according to the commander of the Unmanned Systems Forces, Robert Madiar Brovdi. In his words, in just the first 48 days of the year, Ukrainian drones attacked over 240 targets, including oil and defense industry facilities, energy infrastructure, airfields, air defense systems, and radar stations. Some strikes were carried out in coordination with other units of the defense forces. Confirmed targets include several oil refineries, gas processing plants, oil depots, and chemical plants, notably in Ryazan, Yaroslavl, Tuapse, Saratov, Volgograd, as well as the Tamanneftegaz oil terminal. Additionally, power substations, thermal power plants, and military-industrial facilities were targeted. Ukrainian defenders have successfully carried out drone strikes against the enemy's rear and operational infrastructure across temporarily occupied territories. In Crimea, operators from Ukraine's Special Operations Forces struck a Russian K-27 multi-role helicopter and destroyed a storage site for Iskander missile systems. Powerful secondary explosions were reported at the scene following the impact. Additionally, Ukrainian forces neutralized a drone piloting center belonging to the Russian military's Rubicon unit in the occupied Zaporizhia region. Zelenskyy announced progress in the military direction after the talks in Geneva. The president said that the military understands how to monitor the ceasefire. The USA will participate in this process. Rustem Umerov, Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council, noted that discussions focused on practical issues and the mechanics of potential solutions. Additionally, Umerov held a separate meeting with representatives from the United States and European partners to coordinate further actions.
I concluded a separate meeting with representatives of the United States and European partners, France, the United Kingdom, Germany, Italy, and Switzerland. We discussed the outcomes of today's round of negotiations and synchronized our approaches to the next steps. It is important to maintain a shared vision and coordinated actions among Ukraine, the United States, and Europe. There is a clear understanding of our shared responsibility for the result. Rustem Umerov, Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, on Facebook.
Zelenskyy has instructed Ukrainian negotiators to raise the issue of a face-to-face meeting with Vladimir Putin. Speaking in an interview with Axios, the Ukrainian leader emphasized that a personal meeting with the Russian dictator is the most effective way to achieve a breakthrough regarding occupied territories. Zelenskyy also floated the possibility of holding presidential elections alongside a national referendum, but noted that the primary deadlock remains the duration of a ceasefire. The Kremlin has reportedly proposed a truce lasting only 24 hours for the day of the vote, a position Zelenskyy dismissed as absurd. He stressed that fair and secure elections require at least 2 months of silence, stating that Russia's refusal to commit to a long-term ceasefire proves Moscow is not ready for real peace. In a phone interview with Axios, Zelenskyy noted that Washington and Kyiv have agreed that any deal must be put to the Ukrainian people in a referendum. If that deal involves the Ukrainian side simply pulling out of Donbass, it would be voted down, thinks Zelenskyy. If the deal simply freezes the current battle lines in the Donbass, as is the plan in 2 other regions where Russia holds territory, Zelenskyy thinks the Ukrainian people would accept it.
I think that if we will put in the document that we stay where we stay on the contact line, I think that people will support this in a referendum. That is my opinion. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine, on the interview to Axios.
2,000 Ukrainian children have been successfully brought back from Russian-held territories. Volodymyr Zelenskyy shared the news, highlighting the ongoing efforts to reunite families separated by the conflict. The president vowed that Ukraine will not stop fighting until every child is returned home, stating that the mission remains a top priority for the government.
Each of these returns was made possible thanks to the daily efforts of our people, civil society organizations, and international partners. We are grateful to everyone who has contributed to this fight for the future of our children, our country, and the entire free world. The road ahead remains long and difficult. Thousands of Ukrainian children are still held captive by Russia, becoming victims of its crimes every day. But we will not stop until every Ukrainian child is back home. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine, on X.
Recruiters from the former Wagner private military company are enlisting Europeans to carry out sabotage operations within NATO territory, according to an investigation by the Financial Times. The Kremlin has reportedly expanded its campaign to erode support for Ukraine and destabilize Western nations. Following the collapse of Russian intelligence networks across Europe, the FSB is increasingly turning to intermediaries to hire disposable agents. Top military officials, including the Inspector General of the Bundeswehr and the UK's Chief of the Defence Staff, warn that Russia's aggressive ambitions now extend far beyond the borders of Ukraine. More in the next story for you.
Moscow's intentions are not limited to the war against Ukraine, stated Bundeswehr Inspector General Carsten Breuer and UK Chief of the Defence Staff Admiral Sir Richard Knighton. In a joint article for The Guardian, they assert that Europe's defence strategy requires a fundamental review. Europeans must understand, only strength deters aggression, weakness provokes it.
As military leaders, we see every day from intelligence and open sources how Russia's military posture has shifted decisively westward. Its forces are rearming and learning from the war in Ukraine, reorganizing in ways that could heighten the risk of conflict with NATO countries. This is a reality we must prepare for. We cannot be complacent. Carsten Breuer, Inspector General of the Bundeswehr, Richard Knighton, Chief of the Defence Staff of the United Kingdom, in an article for The Guardian.
According to Western intelligence, recruiters and propagandists who previously worked for the Wagner PMC have received a new task: to recruit Europeans for sabotage operations on the territory of NATO countries, reports the Financial Times. Tasks range from setting fire to politicians' cars and warehouses, with humanitarian aid for Ukraine to information sabotage.
Every day, some hybrid actions are carried out. These can be sabotage, trolls, some electronic attacks. These can be agents working covertly whom we don't know about.
Belarus has long been part of Russia's hybrid aggression strategy. Poland's Border Guard Service and Operational Command of the Armed Forces reported that on the night of the 16th of February, objects resembling weather balloons again entered Polish airspace from neighboring Belarus.
The objects remained under observation by military intelligence systems. The situation was under control and did not pose a threat to the safety of air traffic or Polish citizens. The observed violations of our airspace did not differ from incidents observed recently in the area of the Polish-Belarusian border, from a statement by the Operational Command of the Armed Forces of Poland on social network X.
Russia will remain a threat to the North Atlantic Alliance even after the war against Ukraine ends. NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte is convinced.
That the Russian threat is there, that we need to do much more, not only today to be able to counter the Russians, but also longer term in 27, 29, 31. And therefore we have to spend more, we have to build a defense.
Western intelligence services have repeatedly warned that Moscow could attack NATO countries before 2030. Among the aggressor's priority targets are the Baltic states. Estonia is preparing for such a scenario, assured Foreign Minister Margus Tsakna. He stated that NATO is now stronger than ever, and if the Russian army invades Estonian territory, then, quote, we will transfer the war to Russian territory. Poland, in turn, openly declared its intention to join a nuclear project for protection against Russia.
This path, with respect to all international norms, is the path we must take. It is necessary to act in this direction so that we can begin the work. We are a state located in immediate proximity to the zone of armed conflict. It is known what the attitude of the aggressive Imperial Russian Federation toward Poland is.
Karol Nawrocki did not specify whether he meant creating its own nuclear weapons or deploying foreign ones in the country. His predecessor, Andrzej Duda, in March 2025, called on the U.S. president to place nuclear weapons in Poland as a deterrent in case of possible Russian aggression. Reported by Nikita Skoblikov, UATV News.
That's all for today's News Digest. Thank you for watching. Please leave your reaction and a comment. Your feedback is important and truly appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe to stay tuned for what tomorrow brings, presented from a Ukrainian perspective. See you tomorrow.